Welcome to the Emo Social Club podcast, the podcast about music, news, and interviews. I am Brian.
And I'm Lizzie, and we're here tonight with our friend, Maudify. Thank you so much for hanging out with us, I guess, on the pod instead of just in real life.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here with you lovely humans.
You're an artist.
True.
You've made a music or two.
Uh-huh.
At
least like 8 now, I think.
That's
8
so
musics?
crazy.
8 musics as Maudify, yeah.
Tell us a little bit about this EP that is just coming out. This will be out the Tuesday after.
Okay.
So it's been out for a couple of days.
Yeah, you can go listen right now. This is kind of the culmination of like a couple of years of me trying to like find what I want to do with this project. It hops around a few different genres because I found that I was getting nothing done because I was trying to force myself to pick a lane, and that was not helping. So I started doing singles and just kind of putting them out as their own thing and not worrying about it. And they all got like pretty positive reception, at least from the people that, typically listen to me. And so I just kind of felt a little more emboldened to venture a little bit more into uncharted territory for me and do some things like that I haven't done before, like rapping and electronic kind of influenced music is not something that I am particularly like into musically, as well as anything that I was like super intimate with before working on a lot of these songs. So it was fun to kind of like stretch that creative muscle. And there's also a lot of artists right now that do a similar thing. Like y'all are, I'm sure, familiar with gex and underscores and things of that nature. Lizzie knows underscores.
I know.
Never heard
you
of
don't
gex.
like.
How many are there?
How many
gex?
Oh.
And how many underscores, I guess?
At least 3 of both.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
It builds up. They replicate and multiply.
I ain't got time for that.
Yeah.
These lizards.
The more underscores you have in your Twitter the more underscore songs there are.
It's based on Twitter users.
And that's on math. Yeah,
it's girl math.
Yeah.
The bots don't count, though.
The bots don't count. Pussy in bio. It's past a minute.
Okay.
Oh, it's past a minute? Fuck!
Yeah. A day to remember for like that minute in like 2012 to 2015 like was untouchable. And then every band started to do a day to remember shit and adding in the synths and adding in like all this other stuff that just sort of was like I think the thing about bands that try to do the 1975 writing stuff is like you're not that band, and it almost sounds like you're just trying to pick up on what's big or what is really appealing to a lot of people. And it's kind of like the MGK going pop punk thing. It's like, well, no one in my neck of the woods is doing pop punk, so I'm going to do pop punk. No one in pop punk is doing the 1975, so I'm going to do the 1975. But then everyone's had the same thought at the same time, and then everybody makes a record that sounds like the 1975, but just watered down and without any of like the real thing that made the 1975 a band that people love.
Absolutely. And like there'll always be like the exceptions that prove the rule. Like, because we have our Swakos and our Kenny Hooplas.
Right.
And like,
that really championed it, and they did well with it. But I think
there are good emo rappers.
Yes.
Like,
I think the thing is that they didn't try to say, I'm just going to hit copy and paste. They said, I'll hit a little bit of copy and paste, but I'm going to rewrite a good chunk of this and make it my own. I think it's also, at least in if we're talking about Swako and Kenny Hoopla too, them as performers are much more engaging than a lot of other, if we're talking specifically about emo rap, that came out of that, where they match that same energy as MGK, if not did it better.
I think that they do it better.
And that really elevates any music that's put out. Like, I see Kenny Hoopla every time he comes here because that dude's jumping in the pit no matter where he is.
Absolutely.
He's like, let's go. He is always on his game. He's thrashing around. Same thing with Swako. I'm like, these guys know how to put on a show. Even if you try to argue that one's music is mid or the other or whatever it may be, stage performance really does set the tone if an artist is really good or worth your time, especially in the scene where we're so saturated.
Yeah.
Right
and
now.
is that live energy felt in the recorded version and vice versa? Because like I think something that makes albums like Life Sent Out to Get You like stand the test of time or whatever, despite there being like, as much as I love that album, like quite honestly not a lot of noteworthy like elements of that record. Like it's very much a straightforward pop punk album. It's so fun.
Yeah.
Like it's super catchy and like you have a good time when you listen to it. And I think that that's why a lot of that emo rap stuff and like the like pop punk X trap beats shit like falls flat, is that they are first of all not coming from like an authentic place of like having experienced a lot of the emotions that they're trying to talk about.
Yes.
Or they have experienced them, but they are not like self-attuned with their own feelings to like present it in a way that feels believable or relatable. And also they're not like, I don't know, like with pop punk, I feel like there's kind of like an opposite attract vibe to it of like, if the song is like sad, then it works to like have kind of like a hopeful undertone to it. Like things like something like Adam's Song, for example. And if the song sounds like happy and like super upbeat, it almost makes it more palatable to sing like the heavier, more emotional shit over top of it.
Yeah.
And then when you have the stuff that's like I will just like feel like so like emotionally and mentally and audibly assaulted and like worn down and just like overwhelmed by a lot of that like pop punk trap stuff because it's mastered like so fucking loud.
Yes.
There's no breathing room in any of it. Like it's just like it's kind of like what I said I didn't like about a lot of the like singles on Life Sent Out to Get You, is that it's just like overproduced. Like I want to hear the vocals. I want to understand what you're saying. And like I don't give a shit if they're auto-tuned. And like I appreciate that people like Kenny Hoopla and Sueco are like, I don't sing very good and I'm going to use auto-tune because it makes the song sound better.
It just sounds good.
Yeah, and they also like don't have this like stick up their ass about being like real punk in the way that MGK for some reason still does. Like you gotta move on from that at some point, dude. Like you have to recognize that like even if you don't use pitch correction in a way where it's super noticeable, like you are still using pitch correction and you're still not a very good singer and like you still have like a 1 octave range.
Yeah.
And something that people have always liked about pop punk is that the singers have very like high nasally voices.
Yeah.
And it's weird that this like mumblecore thing is like what has become so cool. And the last thing I'll say about it is that I think that even he has kind of lost sight of what made that stuff interesting and what made it, like I said before, like fun. Because there are things on that first MGK record, like on Tickets to My Downfall.
Oh no, that are great.
It still stands.
Yeah,
It
like,
does stand.
that song with Black Bear, especially. I'm
Yeah.
like, this is like I cannot.
It's a summer
help but
song.
move
That's
to
the
it.
thing.
Yeah.
Here, like again, as we go back to say 2015 to probably 2017, 2018, even for pop punk, stale.
Yeah.
So when people said pop punk is so back in 2020, 2021 with Tickets to My Downfall, it's because it stopped being stale.
Yeah.
That's what happened. We know it never went away, but we got bored with it, and this was something really new and flashy, and that's what people mean by it.
Yeah.
It also became mainstream again, which, you know, is a cycle of trends.
Yes.
Your music,
Yeah.
switching genres and all that, like, and throwing out gex and underscores. So like,
Yeah.
how would you describe a Maudify song, or how would you describe Maudify as an entity, as a being, as a creature?
That is a good question. I've like stopped trying to throw a genre onto it, but then I get asked questions like this, and I wish that I had like some stupid shit that I made up to like call it. It's gay pop.
Oh my God.
JoJo.
You're the
Hit me
second
up.
gay pop artist?
I'm gonna get signed to XOMG Pop, and she's gonna steal all my money, but I will become famous.
my
And then
God.
she's
Well,
gonna
karma's a
gonna
bitch.
re-record all your songs too,
Yeah.
but just in her JoJo version.
Listen, if I could get a bag for it, I would absolutely write a fucking JoJo Siwa song.
Can we get a JoJo Siwa feature on a Modified
I am a
song?
far more believable lesbian than JoJo Siwa. Let me tell you. Like, if you want like a convincingly, like a convincing sapphic breakup song, like I'm your girl, and it's not JoJo Siwa.
This feels like a place where I can make a comment.
Yeah.
So
What's up?
What do you want to say?
Nothing. Absolutely nothing. I want to joke about how I can't make a comment.
Oh, okay.
And I'm not going to make a comment.
Yeah. I mean, like, gay pop is not like, even though I'm not calling it this, it's not like the worst descriptor. There are like very poppy elements to the album. I'd say there's like 1 or 2 songs that I'd say are just like hyper pop.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also like, there's a couple songs that are just like straightforward pop punk. Like the opening track, for example, Johnny Depp shot Hunter S. Thompson in parentheses out of a cannon. Which Google that if you don't know what that is. Do you know about this? Do you know about this?
I don't think so.
So when Hunter S. Thompson died, he gave Johnny Depp his ashes and was like, I need you to fire these out of a cannon for me.
You know, this sounds so crazy, but it's all believable because of those 2 people.
I wish it wasn't true, but I have like looked this up many times, and there are multiple like first person accounts of like when this happened, and like he did shoot his ashes.
Now
out of a
here's my
cannon.
thing. Was someone a Gonzo journalist to write about the inverse happening to the main Gonzo journalist, Hunter S. Thompson being shot out of a cannon after death by Johnny Depp? Because I needed this meta inception
The
to really
ghost of
wrap
Hunter
it up
S.
here.
Thompson
Yeah.
published an article.
It's the only posthumous release about the death of the author. We were 20 miles out of Barstow when I was shot out of a cannon by Johnny Depp. Wait, what?
It's an insane story, and I almost didn't name the song that because I thought about using that song as a single, and I thought that it would be bad for like SEO, and also Johnny Depp's a fucking awful person.
Yeah.
But I think that having it as like a deeper cut is fine. It's a really funny fucking thing that happened.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just a little piece of history that is true.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I feel like this album, EP, whatever you want, there's 6 songs on it. Why is it called an extended play?
Because it's extended from 3 songs.
And the long play is because it's longer to listen to.
What's the bridge between EP and LP? Does anyone truly know?
Radio?
I think it just really comes down to how long it is. So is it something, also it comes down to marketability.
Right.
Marketability wise, it's going to be easier to market a full length rather than an EP, especially to, if you're thinking in terms of radio, to a larger audience. If you are on a label, that's usually your end games to be on the radio. You want to be able to say, here is an album I'm going to charge you $20 for to buy, where you could say the same thing for an EP and say, I'm going to charge you $15 for, you know, anywhere from 3 to 6 songs, where cost value wise comparison, but I could pay $5 more and get 10, 12, 15, 20, whatever it may be songs instead.
Yes.
And I might have a better time of listening to that full length and getting a better vibe of that artist and deciding, do I really like this or do I not really like it? Where with only an EP, it'll be up in the air, especially if a lot of EPs now aren't as succinct. We have a lot more singles that do sound different from each other.
Yes.
So like your EP, it's great, but the differences between your sounds, if you gave it to somebody, you said, here's Maudify, they're gonna say like, what is like the one cohesive sound though?
Yeah.
And then if you come out with an LP, they could probably start to put it together. Or if you had a concept album that really formatted it, it would make more sense. Where an EP is more experimental. It's like our version of having somebody hand us like a taster CD at Warped Tour, where you're like, here's a band on like, I keep thinking the Victory Records one because it's the first one I ever got.
That was so prominent, yeah.
Yeah, and like you got that, and you got 10 to 12 bands that was signed to the roster, and it had the general vibe of what Victory Records sounded like during whatever time period you got that at. But you can listen to it and say, oh yeah, here's a taster of what, you know, Aiden, that's where I found Aiden Rip, what they sound like. And then I can say, oh, I kind of like this. Let me go check out a full length that they might have. Or if they have at least 2 EPs, then I can say, okay, let me listen to these. They kind of equate to a full length.
In like a post-physical media world, it seems like it matters less as a distinction for sure.
I could also assume it has to do with like, I think it's a byproduct of it, but like label contracts where they're like, you have to release this many albums, quote unquote. And so they would then define those as LPs versus EPs. So if they're like, this is how many releases you have to have. It's like, well, it doesn't matter if that's 6 songs. It's like, well, making us a 6-song EP and putting that out, like, and us not being able to market it, sell it, make money off of it is like worse than if you did like a longer album cycle that we then get to make a lot of money off of, put you on tour behind and all that. So I'm sure it's all based in capitalism.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's all basically what has a higher currency exchange rate.
As an indie artist who's just kind of like doing it to like try and like get a foothold, I feel like I'm still at a point where it's better to just release anything at all. Well, I mean, obviously, like, make it
Good
sound,
stuff.
like good music.
Yeah.
What I think is good music. But like, I need there to be like stuff out to like have an established kind of like sound and vibe. And I feel like that's been like a little bit of a roadblock, and I've had a little bit of cognitive dissonance and like the opportunities that I've been able to get and things like that with this project, because I have so many connections from like previous things, but this is not what those things were.
Right.
Like I was in like DIY emo and pop punk bands, and then a lot of this is very electronically driven.
Yes.
And so not all of those people are necessarily like into it or like willing to help. And I don't say that as like a bad thing or like take it personally or anything. It's just like, it's not like as if I turned around and made an emo album and went back to all of the people that I knew in like that area and was like, do you want to put this out? Would you be interested in like booking me, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So not everyone wants a mixed bill, and I totally fucking understand that. It's just like kind of the way it is. But at the same time, I feel like there is a lot more opportunity and like attention to be had just on the internet in general, especially when it comes to music that's like very driven by like queer inspiration, just because the community by nature is so splintered, because the communities have to be kind of like hush hush in a lot of places when it comes to that sort of thing. And so a lot of gay and trans people find their community solely on the internet, and then things spread a lot more quickly that way. Whereas there's like these like really big scenes in things like hardcore, emo, pop punk, that, and even like EDM and I would say where it's like supposedly more welcoming towards those kinds of people. Like I think that even that kind of more palatable electronic music is also very based in like going to the show. And then you have like another kind of like subset of that of people who are into like very grimy, disgusting hyper pop made by like just trans women. And it's great. Like it's really good, but it's not like accessible nor palatable. And I feel like I'm like kind of like riding this line between the two of them where it's like it's poppy sometimes and it's also extremely inaccessible at other points. But it all feels like me, at least to me. And I feel like that's the important part, right? Like when you look at Underscore's records, like there's a lot of genre hopping on those as well, but all of those songs feel like her. And so like that's just like kind of like the point that I want to get across. Or and like we see that with like 100 Gex as well. And even with weirder bands from before that, like I feel like something like Ween is like a proto.
Oh God, yeah.
Almost, you know?
There's a lot of unlistenable music that is like some amazing bands. Blood Brothers coming back right now. I'm like, oh yeah, remember when music was fucking terrible and its band fucking rules? And they were like just making noise and dancing around like little skinny dudes with ties.
Little skinny dudes with ties.
The world
Blood Brothers were.
That is exactly what they were.
I honestly never really got into them, and I've never been so happy to have not been on a train because, with the way the concert tickets are now, like I was just like, I'm glad that I don't have to be disappointed.
I was disappointed. I was so disappointed. Like they're just there's a lot of bands that were a little bit outside the norm, which is why like I think if you're a fan of some of like alternative music and you got into like hardcore heavy music, hyperpop makes so much sense. So like I think the times now are the best it's ever been for making music that is whatever you as an artist want to create.
Yeah.
Because you don't have to abide by a genre anymore at all if you don't want to. Like, it may be easier to market, but then the internet is your marketing tool anyway, and you're probably going to have an audience because you made something that is, in some cases, for some artists, unlistenable nonsense.
Yeah. But for other people, it's like the thing that made them want to play music, and like that's what's so crazy about it. Like, Blood Brothers is like, and like we've seen it this week on the internet, obviously, is like an incredibly influential band for a ton of people, for a ton of bands that I really like. And I feel like just kind of like time passing has kind of like made those bands more popular because of that like shift in like inaccessible, I don't have a better word for it, but just like inaccessible music becoming more mainstream and more popular, and people being more open-minded towards it. Like, why the fuck is Knocked Loose playing Coachella, Bonnaroo,
so crazy,
Lollapalooza, going on these crazy headlining tours where they're playing places like here they're playing Solid Shed, that's like a 4,000 person room. That's nuts. That never would have happened like 10, 20 years ago. And like when Blood Brothers was big, like they were big enough to like sustain being a band for like a decent amount of time, but not big enough to keep doing it.
No.
And then now that you have other bands that are like currently like relevantly huge, like See You Space Cowboy being like Blood Brothers is one of our favorite fucking bands.
Yes.
Like kids go and listen to it, and like that's really cool. Same with like I Set My Friends on Fire. With fucking Nothing Rhymes with Orange. Like that was like a huge, just like out of nowhere, like resurgence in popularity. I mean, it was awesome. It's a great song that absolutely did not get the love it deserved when it came out.
I was so mad at that song at the time. I was like, you're just a goofy goober. You're doing something that no one wanted, no one needs, and you're doing it so loud and like getting so many people paying attention to it. And now I'm like, you were ahead of the curve. You were ahead of the game. Fuck that. I was such a hater. Hate the way you walk. Hate the way you talk.
We all know Brian's #1 hater all the time. Don't worry.
2024, you're the hater.
Being a hater rocks. Like, I'm not going to pretend like it doesn't.
Good.
And like that, like, I don't know. I think that like society like shapes the way we feel about these albums like a lot more than we care to admit. Because like I certainly saw I Set My Friends on Fire as bad for a long time.
Yep.
And I also saw things like we specifically, the three of us, I think I've talked before about how like if Krayshawn came out today, she would be ginormous.
Oh yeah.
Like but like at the same time, like when I was younger and that came out, I thought it was dog shit. Like I thought it fucking sucked. And some of that is just like maturity and like not being able to like let go of cringe yet and like stuff like that, and just like being able to admit like this is funny and it's like a good time and like fun to listen to. But I also think that like there wasn't anything else that really sounded like that yet.
No. Yeah. It was so big because it's like, what is this? This is different. This is weird.
No
it should
point for it.
And now we have reference points for everything.
Yeah.
We can always just say, if there's always one artist that you can go, oh, this sounds like them. Yeah. Every hyperpop band is 100 gecs now because it's so ubiquitous to know 100 gecs in hyperpop genre. Yeah. Even though there's a ton of people that are making it, it's like, that's just, we know that that's the band because they made it out the hood with that one.
For real.
Oh my God.
For real.
Lizzie, did you ever listen to the Blood Brothers?
I tried one song, like, I think it was many years ago, and I was like, I do not like this. My thing is, I look at, like, the names of bands. I'm like, that sounds really cool. It should sound good. Then I'm like, what is this shit? I don't like it.
Lizzie judges a book by the cover.
I do.
You ever heard that Number 12 looks like you?
No.
Dude, I saw Number 12 looks like you. Inaccessible music.
Like, I like noise music. Like, I like listening to hyperpop. I like listening to, like, happy hardcore techno, trance, that type of stuff. But there's some things, and I like industrial, like goth rock, and I'm just like, some things I'm just like, this just does not sit on the ear. Like, I like noise, but there's sometimes I'm like, this is the white noise, and now this is like, what the fuck is this noise?
Right. I totally get what you mean, because like there's noise with like a specific kind of intent, and maybe it's like meant to invoke kind of a certain feeling or emotion. And also, like, I feel like the best kind of music like that kind of, like, scales to, like, the noisiest, most chaotic, like, worst
Yeah.
in quotations for the audio listeners parts about it. Whereas there's a lot of stuff like Blood Brothers, for example, that's kind of just inaccessible for inaccessibility's sake.
Yes.
And I think that that stuff is important and like holds like an important space like in this kind of music, because that's where a lot of people that go on to make a lot of really important and more intentional, like noisy and confusing and fucking like out there and really amazing stuff like start out. But I also think that a lot of that shit is fucking unlistenable. And I also think that a lot of it ends up getting overly praised because of the work that comes from those people later on, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can see that.
Do you listen to Cemetery?
That is not one I'm familiar with.
I heard of him through Fantano.
Oh, yeah.
And he really likes this music. So I was like, all right, this guy, he does like some dog shit.
And I say that as someone who like kind of typically agrees with him.
I know he likes what he likes, and you know, like we're doing album reviews. We like what we like. It doesn't mean anything, but at least if you're like, I'm open minded, and you're saying you really like this, I'm gonna go check it out.
Yeah.
And he's providing his own commentary in the conversation, which is all, you know, anybody who has a microphone in front of their face does.
Totally.
I checked out Cemetery, and it's some of the most unlistenable shit I've ever heard.
Oh my God.
I love it so goddamn much.
We're going to have to listen to
He
this
is
afterwards.
one of maybe the worst rappers, the worst artists I've ever heard.
What?
It's so goddamn good. He like, all of his lyrics are the exact same. All of his lyrics just repeat themselves. He has like that like corpse voice sort of thing where he's like singing and rapping really low. There are so many good songs. But like then there's some where like he'll do like DJ drops in every song, and it'll be like some songs where it's like mostly DJ drops, and I'm like, God, that's awesome. That's so good. He has some very catchy songs. He's got some that just like sound like noise. It's like really overdone, like he's like clipping the microphone, like it like badly produced stuff.
It makes me so angry how much clipping the microphone has become like a style.
Yes.
It's all fucking Triple X Tentacion.
Yeah. Yes, it is.
Stupid.
And that he's just copying all of that sort of thing. Like it's, I think growing up listening to heavy music just set me up to be like, oh, this is just angry, heavy, loud, like go the fuck off at a live show type of vibe.
Yeah.
It's also just it's like hyper pop rap, hyper pop metal, hyper pop whatever.
Yeah.
He has a very like good aesthetic with it too. The aesthetic is fucking phenomenal. It's all like really blown out images where he's wearing like True Religion jeans and holding like butcher knives and shit. You're like, God damn it. You got it. You understood the assignment.
Totally get it. Yeah.
I watched a video of like Neopunk FM.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. They're like these YouTubers who kind of do like we're going to watch a video from them at some point on Zoomer Gaze. But they kind of talk about like the music scene from people who like go and experience it. And they went to a Cemetery show and they were like interviewing all the fans. And every fan is like, yeah, I don't think Cemetery is going to be around much longer as like an artist. Like he's kind of just fallen off. Like, but they're like at the show to see Cemetery. Like, yeah, it was very strange. I don't think the fans are like in love with him anymore.
Damn.
I mean, at least they showed up. Those are like real diehards. So good
he
for
also
him.
like he really quickly made like a bunch of lore. So like there's like lore hounds out there who are like, I gotta know everything going on with like not only him, but he has a label and he's got other artists on the label, and now there's like been some falling out with some of them.
Oh, tea.
Yeah, so there's like a bunch of tea, there's a bunch of lore, and now the fans are like, yeah, well, I don't know, ever since he kicked out this guy, like it's not as good anymore. And I'm like, oh shit, like they're like they're fiends for the lore, but they're also like talking shit about the guy who they bought tickets to see.
It's just like, oh my God.
Yeah. I'm like, this dude's probably like 22 years old. Like,
I feel like to some extent we've all done that though, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Like when
yeah.
you're just like not crazy about the most recent record.
But then we're like, I'm here anyway.
My Chemical Romance.
Why are you such a hater?
You only hate it when I say something bad about something that you love. If you agreed with the thing that I hated, you'd be like, well, yeah, he's right about that one. You right on that, son.
But then you're just mad at me whenever I am a hater.
I mean, what are you talking about? Danger Days?
No, Danger Days is phenomenal.
He hates
Foundations of Decay is one of the
this one fucking song.
like that's a song where they are it's like clipping the mic too. Like it sounds blown out. It sounds like it's coming out of like a broken CD player.
Yeah.
And it's like you're the biggest band in the world. What the fuck is this?
The production on that one is weird because like it sounds so big in like the worst way.
Yes.
Like it feels like the song is kind of buried under this like wall of sound.
Yeah.
The new Blink-182 album has kind of a similar problem, if I'm honest, where like the lead guitar is just like so babyish and tiny.
Babyish?
Yeah, like I don't
My
know how to
tiny
just
guitar.
it's like literally like that's how it's like itty weeny tiny little guitar tone. Like it's so quiet. And that like to the point that someone on YouTube uploaded the whole album again and it's titled like Blink-182 One More Time if the album mix was actually good.
Oh shit.
It sounds fucking incredible.
Yeah.
Like genuinely improves the listening experience of the record.
Oh, wow.
Like helps me better actually understand which of the songs are good and which are bad.
Like when you're one of the biggest bands in the world, having a bad mix is just unacceptable.
It's just like you
yeah.
have so much access to literally everything possible
and
at
you
this
have,
point.
there is no way, like when you're Blink-182 and you're putting out Take Off Your Pants and Jacket and they're like, oh, you don't have a single on this.
Yeah.
And they have to go back. It's like, no, when you're releasing like this like amazing record that everyone's waited decades for fucking Tom to come back, and you tell me that there's not enough people in the room to say, I don't hear like a single, or I don't hear the guitar, or like, oh, your vocals sound muddy or whatever. It's like, no, someone was in that room to tell them, and either they didn't have any power that day,
That
or
one
like,
day.
or
Dude,
like,
I'm telling you, like Travis Barker just like really needed an engineering credit on this for some reason. I don't know what it is, but he just really needed an engineering
points on
credit,
the back end.
and so he had to mix and master it. And I
Yeah.
wish he hadn't. Like you can get the fucking producer credit and never touch the DAW. Like you
Yeah.
didn't need to do all that, bro.
You can
like,
literally just turn a dial and the guy can turn it back,
why the
and
fuck
you get
do
it.
you want an engineering credit?
Points.
I guess.
It's so you
You're
can,
already Travis Barker. Like what the fuck?
He wants like the legitimacy on that end.
It's just so funny how like stereotypical it is. Like every producer I know who's a drummer, like every first draft I've ever gotten is like, can you make the drums a little quieter, man? Like please. Like every producer I've ever worked with who's a drummer. This is just like it's like that like on crack. Like
Yeah.
it's like the biggest drummer in the world mixing and mastering his album for his band that at one point was the biggest band in the world, and even he is like, I'm just gonna make the drums too loud.
Yep.
It's like, I'm just going to do it.
It does like it's weird what you said about Take Off Your Pants and Jacket and how like they had like that. 'Cause I know what you're talking about, where like the label execs came and were like, "You've got no single on this."
Yep.
Because now they, for like 3 records now, have tried to put out these albums where every single song could maybe possibly be a single.
Yep.
And they all just like kind of like have like. They have not written like a perfect song since Tom
Yeah,
left.
it's because of John fucking Feldman.
It's not though. John Feldman doesn't have dick to do with this new one.
It's well, yeah, that's
He
also
doesn't
true.
I was about to
anything to
say,
do
calm
with it.
down.
This one, but it's John. It's not.
John Feldman did have a very heavy part to play in
Yes.
those last 2 albums being mid as hell.
He's the type to be like
Worse
every
than
song
mid
should
even.
be a single.
Yes.
And he's like, I'm gonna write it for you. Certainly, that has rubbed off on Travis and Mark going
Yes.
into anything else they write. I'm like, at least for the most part, Tom has been like, I remember working with Jerry Finn, the guy,
Yeah.
and I'm going to take that into Angels and Airwaves instead of like getting the Feldman stink on me. God, he really should never listen to this podcast. I am
Oh my,
the
yeah, I was
meanest
about to
about
say,
Feldman.
you're just, you hate him
I'm
so
right
much.
though, is the thing. Like everybody.
I don't disagree with a
picks a
single
lane,
thing
yeah.
that you're saying. My thoughts on Blink-182, if you want to find them, I'm sure are well documented.
If you want to find
The
them.
mod lore.
But if you don't want to dig into that at all, I think they're great, and I think they have a lot of terrible music.
Yeah.
The-
That's also kind of the thing that they were doing. They're
Yeah.
like, we're a shitty pop punk band.
Yeah, but like,
but they put out some of the best material
They
when
did
they
make
were
good songs.
and
yeah.
there's a
saying that.
there is a
Yes.
charming aspect to it, and like just kind of like a nice like humble thing about it when it's like, we fucking suck, ha ha hee hee, and then the music is like good and it's fun, and you understand that like you are legitimately trying your best here, and you like absolutely put forth like your best effort and your best foot forward, and like you made something that I think that you're proud of. And then I look at things like California and 9, and I think that they're proud of this new one, but those last two especially, I'm like, gun to your head, do you wish you had made this album? And I feel like for all three of the members of that band at that point, like the answer is probably fucking no.
Yeah, no.
Like I don't think Matt Skiba sees his time in Blink-182 as a net positive for his image. For his wallet, maybe, but
For his
like,
wallet, for sure.
Oh yeah. I mean, California was one of the worst albums I heard when that came out.
Yeah.
I have a personal vendetta against Bored to Death.
I think that Bored to Death gets
one of the best songs on the album. And
Yes.
that's really saying something.
I have a personal vendetta against it.
No, I don't think that you're wrong in disliking it, or like I don't think that it's a particularly good song. I'm saying that's why it's so upsetting that that's one of the best songs.
Yeah.
There
on
was
that
like I
album.
tried to really give it a try because there was other people out there like, no, this is really good. It's mature, and I said, okay, let me try. Where's
the song?
Where, homie? We should probably do our 5
We're gonna
questions.
we're
for
gonna do
you.
our questions. These are all gonna go to the thing,
to TikTok.
to the TikTok, to the
Has it been
stuff.
almost an hour?
Yeah,
yeah. Oh, yeah.
47 minutes.
Fuck, dude.
I don't know, man. We get to talking about Blink-182 and fucking
If
artists
there's
we
one
hate.
thing I can fucking talk about, it's Blink-182 fucking.
Once we start talking about all the bands we fucking hate, that's when everything.
That's when it all
starts
derails.
to be a conversation for the ages. So yeah, we asked 6 questions. If you repeat anything that you've already said, that's fine because these are going to be clipped out. So yeah, these are the promo sections of
All
questions.
right, let's run it.
First question is: what is the most emo song you are listening to right now?
The most emo song I'm listening to right now is probably "Red Wine and Discontent" by See You Space Cowboy. That album fucking rocks.
Dude,
first of all.
oh my
Like,
god, when the first two singles dropped, I'm like, oh, this is gonna be like my album of the year.
Yeah.
It's so fucking good.
And like I love the rest of the record. Like don't get me wrong. And like I feel a little bad for like picking that song specifically just because it is like the lead single and everything. But like there's there has to be a reason they picked that one. It's so fucking good. And like I don't know. I've been telling a lot of people that like this is the best Silverstein album they never made. Like that's the way
so
I've been
fucking
describing this
true.
album to a lot of people. Also, like their bass player, his clean vocals just sound a lot like Shane.
Yeah.
Maybe it's him or maybe it's the guitar player. I'm not totally sure, but
Now they've added more singers every time they put out a record.
all
It's like,
fucking 3 of them
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
vocals now, so it's hard.
It's amazing.
It's hard to know. But there's a lot. The clean vocals especially are definitely giving Shane told. And there's also like a lot of like really like obvious Panic at the Disco influence.
Yes.
Like
Oh, yeah.
down to like melodies that are like traceable. Like like this is like if Fever was a metalcore album.
Fuck
and
yeah.
it's really fucking good.
the presser that I got for that album said that Connie literally took a lot of inspiration from film noir, specifically
Yes.
from the graphic novels of Sin City, and I
Yes.
love those graphic novels. So when I read that, I said, yo, I'm in. One, I was already in from the single,
Yeah.
but I was like, oh, I am so fucking locked in.
I mean, that's probably just the parallel that I'm missing because I'm sure that Fever is like based off of that as well.
It's all in the same idea.
Those Las Vegas motherfuckers.
Those last
Moulin Rouge, yeah, the Beatles of it all, like the fucking 60s and 70s shit. See Space Cowboy deserves everything.
What was the inspiration behind Mod Style?
My roommate Claire started saying it one day, and I could not stop saying it since. It's just like it's so funny to me. Like when I said before that I had other names, like I was being for real. Like I was throwing a few things back and forth in my head, and my initial plan was to do kind of like a black and white kind of thing and get like a really like old timey dress and call it like Maudeville.
Oh, that would be cute.
And I think I'm still gonna do that, but I'm gonna hold off on it partially because of what we just talked about. Where like there's kind of a few bands right now doing like the like throwbacky like cabaret,
Yes.
Sin City kind of vibe. And even though that's not necessarily what I'm doing, I feel like it would just kind of get like roped into that.
Yes.
And so I've kind of leaned a little bit more into being goofy with it. One, because I think that a lot of music right now takes itself too seriously, and I don't want to do that. And also, I think because the music tonally and lyrically is so dense and so kind of like emotionally heavy, it helps to have kind of like a goofier side to myself in terms of like the branding and the marketing and like what I do on social media and like obviously what I'm naming the songs. And then the songs already had goofy names, so then I was like, to do like really hardcore serious branding for this and have like a really serious album title, and then for all of the song names and all of like my, I was gonna say social media presence, but just presence in general to be so fucking like deeply unserious and just like chronically, terminally online. Like I wanted to steer a little bit more into that, and so like the cover art that I'm actually going with is like a lot goofier, and I want to like maybe lean more into that in the music in the future as well. Like there's a lot of bands and artists that are able to be like goofy without being like comedic. Like they're just kind of like showing their heart on their sleeve, not to fucking go back to Blink-182 again. Yeah. But like there's a lot of stuff on Dude Ranch that is like hilariously immature, but you listen to it and you're like, yeah. Like on I think it's the song Waggy where he's like talking, he's like to paraphrase the line, he's like, I have so much potential, but right now I just want to jack off. And like, yeah, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel that.
I feel that.
Yeah. Geeked up playing Xbox all day.
We've been there.
Geeked up.
Geeked up playing
Brian,
Xbox
there's something going on,
day.
like a flashback happening behind Brian's eyes, like really intensely right now.
No, I was very musically serious, and then myself deeply unserious when it came to like, you know, high school shit. It's like I love bands that are taking themselves very seriously while I am like a goofy goofball.
I feel like it's important to like be multifaceted like that though, like just in general, even like not in terms of music. Like I feel like the people who are like trying way too hard to be happy all of the time are giving themselves no room to feel sad ever, which is also super unhealthy. And then like vice versa. Like yes, there can be a lot of bad things going on either like in general or to you personally, but if you never give yourself the space to feel good, then like it's never going to improve. And so, like, it's also, like, just for myself to not get caught up in, like, the kind of malaise of it all that can come from, like, writing about your own personal struggles and, like, having to kind of retread those things and relive moments that are, like, not super happy or, like, you know, like, enjoyable to relive. But also, I've always seen, like, finishing lyrics for a song has always been, like, so cathartic for me. Just, like, with the way that I write them. Like, I find it easiest and like best for my creative process to write about things that have actually happened to me or that actually impact me, and it like is one of the things that I find is more helpful than anything else I've ever done. Sorry, I'm giving you really long answers for like all of these.
What is the music scene like in the city of Chicago?
You know, it's a music scene.
That's wild.
All right, cool. Well, that's a short
crazy.
answer.
Next question. Just kidding. There's a lot of good people in it, and they make me very happy. And I think that the things that I don't like about Chicago are not fair to put on Chicago. I think it's just the way that the music industry kind of works. Mm-hmm. But there, you know, like anywhere else, there are people that you're not going to get along with, or that like you don't like love a ton in your scene, and like that's just life. It's like when people go out of their way to be stingy or greedy or like, I don't know. I really enjoy the sentiment and like the practice of like community-driven scenes and like propping each other up. And there always seems to be people who are kind of like sharkish and predatory and like will kind of like use you as a stepping stone and not in a positive way. Mm-hmm. But again, I feel like it's not fair to like put that on the city because you'll find that anywhere. Like I've even seen it on tour and stuff when I've been lucky enough to like play music with other bands like around the country and stuff. Like you'll encounter it anywhere. And I have a lot of friends in the scene that I've known for like a decade plus that I'm like very grateful to have and that I would not trade for anything, even all of like the bullshit that I may have had to endure at one point or another. And so I'm happy to be from here. I like Chicago. I like to call it home. And fucking shout out to 10 Month Summer. They're one of the realest fucking bands doing it right now. They're so good.
Awesome. Why was My Scotty Plays the Drums chosen as a single?
Because I didn't have anything else done yet, if I'm being like so fucking honest with you. I really I had a show coming up and I wanted to challenge myself to put out another song because a lot of the things that I was playing were not released at that point. And so I felt like it would be odd for even the people that did or like who were aware of me already to like come see it because like so much of it would be like unknown to them. And so I was like, I'm going to try and put something out before the show happens, which is why it ended up being My Scotty Plays the Drums, because it was the song that I had been working on at the time, and I was like very invested in it at that point. And like, I have a hard time like leaving and coming back to stuff, and so I was like, if I just like barrel through this whole thing right now, just get all of it recorded, I can absolutely mix and master it in a weekend and put it out. And so I did, and it was like a fun experiment just to see if I could do it. I don't think I'd do it again. I don't recommend it. It definitely had like the shortest production process of any of the songs on the album. But I'm happy with the way it turned out. I don't think any of the songs on it are bad or anything, but I think it's one of the better songs on there. I think it's fun. Like I wanted to do something with gang vocals. I hadn't done that before, and yeah, I like that one.
What type of collab would you like to do, and with whom?
That is such a good question. I think it would be really fun to do just like a straight up rap song, just to get out of my element a little bit. Even the songs I have where I am rapping, I feel so fucking weird calling it that. I like don't see myself as a rapper. Like I feel very like 21 Pilots-y, which is so fucking awful to say. What?
Go on.
Okay.
Go on.
I don't hate 21 Pilots. I just I feel like calling Tyler Joseph a rapper also feels like wrong.
It's a tool in the toolbox.
Right.
It's
exactly.
not like, of course, there is a lot to say about like rap as an art form and generally like the fact that it is a black art form.
Yeah.
And
I was going to say, like, we don't need to like dance around.
Non-black people doing it is always going to feel like you're a tourist.
It's really easy to get caught up in the Macklemore of it all and feel like you just shouldn't do it.
Yes. But I think that it is still a tool in the toolbox of making music, and the more that genres combine and the more that there is opportunities for people to make other types of music, and also like I always go back to this like Tyler the Creator quote where it's like, white kids in the suburbs listened to rap and got GarageBand and then started to make like music that is like what we were making.
That whole interview is great, and that part especially is really fucking funny and really true.
It's like a lot of people realize like, I can't hold on to this forever. It's gonna get out. People are gonna learn it, and then they're going to make worse versions of it.
Yeah,
and that worse version is going to influence someone else, and eventually it's gonna get down the line to everybody.
We also it's created this like oversaturation of like nerdy white boy hip hop producers.
Yes,
and I'm gonna be real, a lot of them are really good.
Yeah,
a lot of them are fucking cooking.
Let them cook.
Oh my god.
But I would really love to work with someone like Eric Doa or Breakins, the people who are doing like. My biggest complaint with emo rap as a genre, like when it first kind of started blowing up with people like Lil Peep, was that like this is like a good idea that is not being fully realized.
Yes.
Like sampling is cool. Play the fucking guitar for real though. Like why like why the fuck not? And then I honestly feel like Juice WRLD was like one of the first people to start actually playing the fucking guitar on these songs. Even if I'm not sure if it was him or his producer or whoever, but like even like Lucid Dreams, like yes, that's from a Sting song, but like they play the actual riff.
Yeah.
Like they interpolated it, and like I think that's cool. And I wish that there was like more stuff like that. I mentioned Kenny Hoopla and Swaco earlier. Like they as well are using like clearly like real instrumentation in their music, as well as like the trap beat stuff. Like tools in a toolbox is a really good way of putting it, where like you can tell that these artists have like an appreciation for a lot of different things, and they don't want to be like pigeonholed into just one of them, and I like really relate to that. And so like it's important to me that if I'm going to do things with like rap and hip hop elements, that I'm like respectful to and good at it.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, why the fuck would I? And so like I feel like someone like Breakins and someone like Eric Doa, like the way their music sounds is like it kind of like passes a certain threshold for me. I think lyrically it's better. I think production wise it sounds better. There's fucking riffs. What's not to love? So I'd love to do something like that, like get on something with like a little bit just like more of like a hip hop element to it.
For Lizzie's knowledge, Eric Doa is the What If Ninja Got a Low Taper Fade.
It is
that
guy.
guy.
Yeah,
Okay.
which it's so fucking funny to me that that's what made him pop off, and also kind
Good
of like
for him.
circles back really nicely into what
Yeah.
I was saying about like memes. Because if you listen to his actual music, it's like not unserious. Like
Yeah.
he's got like fucking like very good,
Yeah.
like well intentioned and like well like thought out and well made music. And he's a fucking goober.
Yep.
He's a,
That's why I have to reference it to Lizzie just so she
yeah, I
knows
was like, I
who.
don't know.
Who's Eric Doa?
I'm not a YouTube kid by any means. So.
That was a TikTok thing too.
I
Oh my
wasn't on that side of
God,
TikTok.
it's so
Yeah.
That was probably like, you know, child TikTok maybe. Brian.
I didn't see it from TikTok.
Uh-huh.
Eric Doa and Breakins have a song together, and it's like one of my favorite things that either of them have done. It's so good.
Both good artists.
Yeah.
All right. And Maud, can you tell us about any upcoming show dates or tour dates that you have?
Yes. I am playing at the Bummer Summer Festival, put on in combination by 10 Month Summer. Shout out again, and Kickstand Productions. Also, our homies, obviously, they help us run Emo Night, which we do as a group.
We do as a group.
You do.
Yeah, with some other friends of ours. And I'm very excited for that. Everyone on there is fucking killer. We've been planning it for like a long time, and I promise that the ticket is like well worth the money, and it's honestly not very expensive, and you will come away with a newfound appreciation for the Chicago emo scene, and that is a guarantee. And if it doesn't happen, you can sue me.
Wow, that's
Wow, jeez, yeah.
Are you
That's
sure about
satire,
that?
and you need to leave this in for legal reasons.
I'm gonna leave it in for legal reasons.
Well, just put like a big like satire warning.
Please come to the show. Thank you.
I'm gonna cut it a cub.
Deezer.
I'm gonna cut it a cub. Tell the people where they can find you on the internet.
Deezer.
Where they can listen
Jesus,
to.
Maud.
Where they can listen to or support you. You know, Bandcamp Fridays or whatever it is, or if it's just Deezer.
Embarrassingly enough, I don't think any of the shit's on Bandcamp, so I need to work on that. When this comes out, it will probably be on Bandcamp. I'm
Good.
not holding myself to shit. I don't
Good.
remember anything. But you can definitely listen to it on Apple Music, Spotify, Tidal, SoundCloud, YouTube Music, all the places that most people get their freaking music from. You can also find it in your mom's CD collection.
Your mom.
Your mom.
Well, Maud, as
Ryan.
a long-term friend, I'm glad we finally got to have you on
Yeah.
Hey, it's
to
great
hang
to
out
be
with
here.
you, and I'm glad you've got some music coming out.
Me too.
I've been a fan.
I've
Like,
wanted to bug you guys about doing this for a little while, but I wanted to do it when it like made sense. and
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's
Yeah.
totally
It's like we can just shoot the shit, but it's more like, no, go like listen, go
Right.
do a thing. You
Right.
know?
Like I want there to, I like when I listen to a podcast or something, and it's like I like this person. I want to listen to their music.
Yeah.
And then like I also enjoy their music. It's kind of like
Yeah.
both ends of the spectrum.
Yeah, we just talked about how Sleep Token is doing so well because they're mysterious, and a lot of people aren't going to want to be so parasocial anymore.
It's a
and then we
hard-
do a parasocial product.
Let's
yeah,
go.
I really don't know what to do with all that. I will say I have like other projects in the works that are like definitely less personality driven that I think are going to take a little bit more of a pivot in that direction. I think with Maudify, because so much of it is just like on my sleeve already, it's like I don't want to like hide anything that I don't have.
Not hiding my sleeves.
I'm certainly not. And sleeve is definitely
They're
like a
there.
bold word for it. They're like there's tattoos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see you in a fucking week or something.
Yeah.
June 7th. Please come to emo night.
Yeah. We'll see you
We'll all
June
be
7th at
there.
emo night.
We'll all be there.
We're gonna all
So
be
will glimmers and light blue
bozos.
lines.
Yep. So we'll see you there, and until yeah, we see you. Bye.
June 7th and 29th.
Yeah.
Bitch.
Thanks for coming on.
Yeah.
Bitch.
Faggot.
Bitch.